Hey nerds, I'm talking to the co-showrunner of Strange New Worlds, Henry Alonzo Myers, starting now. Welcome to the Nerd Soul Show. I am Nathan. So a few housekeeping and context things before we get started. So this interview is actually from last year. The Writers Guild of America went on strike on May 2nd, and I'm recording this on May 30th. So they went on strike about 4 weeks ago. So Henry and I did not speak this month or this year. We actually had this conversation on June 29th of last year, a day after I spoke to Bruce Horak, and that interview is up there. We spoke before episode 9 streamed on Paramount Plus, the episode All Those Who Wander. There were some issues with the audio on my end, and I tried to fix it manually, and I kind of put this down for a little while. And then recently, I was able to fix the audio using some AI tools. I wanted to release this before season 2 premieres. So we discussed some things that have been revealed in other places and some things that haven't. Also, you won't hear me ask a lot of follow-up questions because Paramount told me I had about 10 minutes. We actually ended up speaking for 25 minutes, but I didn't know that I had that much time. If you know others who would be interested in the interview, please share this. And of course, if you enjoy the interview, like it, makes the algorithm happy and helps other people find the video. Separately, Paramount gave us access to the first 6 episodes of season 2 on Friday. I've watched all the episodes, and I'm going to talk a little bit about our review of those episodes at the end of this video. So stay tuned for that at the end of this video. Finally, we are talking to Paramount about more interviews this year with the cast and the crew. I don't know if the writer's strike is going to be over by the end of the season, but hopefully we can talk to some of the cast and other people on the production team. So subscribe so you don't miss any of that. All right, without further delay, let's get to the interview. And fair warning, we discussed season 1 and hints of season 2. So if you haven't watched season 1, go watch that or finish that before you start this. All right, spoilers ahead.
Hi.
Yeah, hi Henry. Thanks for your time. I know you're in the middle of production right now, so really appreciate your time.
It's totally right. Yeah, we're on the last 2 days of production of season 2.
Awesome. Well, congrats on that, and also congratulations on a successful season 1. Opinions might vary more individual episodes, but I think a lot of people would agree with my belief that this is probably the best first season of Trek ever. So congratulations on that.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Try not to let that go to my head.
So my first question, I got the opportunity to speak to Bruce Horak yesterday, and he told me that Hemmer's death was always part of the plan, and he was told about it during the audition process. So I can see how his meaningful death served a horror's arc. However, do you think there might have been more stories to tell with Hemmer and the Enar?
I mean, yes, absolutely. Like, there's always more stories to tell. Look, Bruce is a wonderful actor, and we were extremely lucky to have him. When we designed Hemmer as a writer's room, part of the goal was we had so many legacy characters from TOS. Like, one of the things that sometimes you'll see people knock a show like ours about is by saying that, oh, there's no tension because you know that everyone's going to survive.
Yeah.
We were sort of like, what if we brought in a character and that character dies?
Right.
That way, when they die, they actually have resonance. It's almost a joke at this point that, like, in TOS, you have the red shirts. Yes. And one of the things that we felt that we wanted to bring back, Akiva and I, really was important to do emotional storytelling. And we wanted to remind people of the costs of exploration. That when a red shirt dies, it doesn't necessarily that it can hurt, that it's real.
Right.
I mean, that was the idea with Hammer. Now, that said, none of us had any idea that Bruce would be as good as he was.
Yeah.
Just are always hoping that the show will turn out great. And you're always hoping that an actor is going to be terrific. And he exceeded all of our expectations and brought this unbelievable depth and kindness and brought this, he really clicked with Uhura.
I will not fight for Starfleet, but I will defend its ideals. Pacifism is not passivity. It is the active protection of all living things in the natural universe.
It's a matter of perspective. Like using touch instead of sight.
I wouldn't know. Humans waste so much life worrying about death. The Enar believe the end only comes once you have fulfilled your purpose. It provides meaning.
I like that. So what was your purpose?
To fix what is broken.
You can throw in teaching? Maybe even being inspiring. A little.
He had this wonderful episode with Babs.
What are you doing?
Abra! Cadabra!
Nice visit, Powers.
Yeah.
Like you hope as a television producer that you'll have moments like that. And then you realize, oh my God, like we're on this road where we're going to kill him. What are we going to do? We're going to, and look, the challenge I think as the television producer is not to necessarily make the episodes that always make people happy, but to make them feel. And that sort of leaned in and did. And his death is a heartbreaking but beautiful scene.
My sacrifice saved the lives of those I care most about. For me, there is no other choice.
A logical conclusion.
Live long and prosper, my friend.
No, we can help you. You have to let us try.
Uhura, I want to leave you with one last piece of advice. Open yourself. Make a home for yourself amongst others, and you will find joy more often than sadness.
Hammer. Hammer, please. Please.
Do not weep for me. I've had a good life. It's time for me to go. Just like Andoria.
And I'm haunted by the way Celia plays it in that scene as we watch him. And Davey Perez, who wrote the episode, I thought did a beautiful job in it. And I will say, for what it's worth, that in true Star Trek fashion, although Hemmer is dead, I've not seen the last of Bruce Horak on our show.
Yeah, he mentioned.
Yes, and we would like to keep using him into the future.
Yeah, I joked with him yesterday that I hope that he has a twin brother called Yemmer or something.
Let me just say, you're going to see him in very surprising ways. Very surprising and kind of delightful,
Okay, that's awesome. So Ortegas was another who didn't get a episode center around her character. However, she had fewer highlights than Hemmer during the season. Will we get to delve into her character in season 2?
Oh, absolutely. I love Ortegas. Melissa is a fantastic actress. It's really hard when you only have 10 episodes to juggle all these characters and give everyone their due. We're very lucky to have all these unbelievable talented actors to play these roles. One of the great things about Ortegas, and I will just say this as the writer, is that she's like right in the center of every scene, and she has a comment on it. She's one of the most fun characters to write because she's the smartass on the bridge, and it's delightful to write for her.
Well, if Spock and I can agree, then there's hope for all of us. How close do you want to get? First date or third date?
Blind date.
Copy. Proceeding with caution, sir. Actually, I enjoy flying manually. Feels like the ship and I are in a deep conversation. Like a third date.
Security.
There are no breaks in security because threats never take breaks. One very entertaining time.
How is being chased by live phaser fire fun?
Oh, good. I was worried you might show up in a silly hat. Where fun goes to die. It's stupid. The yeomen don't know what they're talking about. If they did, they wouldn't be yeomen. So, no shields and no weapons. What do? Throw luggage at them?
You said it was formal.
Actually, what I said was you might want to wear your dress uniform.
Are you kidding? This is your idea of a practical joke.
Kind of.
General Ortegas, Cadet Uhura, welcome. Dress uniform, huh?
The other thing that we talked about with her character that's kind of interesting is that we have a lot of people with challenging, difficult backstories, and that she is someone who was a veteran who wears it more lightly. And we really wanted to, she's also a character it's like she's friends with everybody.
Right.
And that's something we kind of get into more in season 2, although she does have her own stories in season 2. Look, I wish we had time to give everyone 2 episodes of their own. I love writing for this ensemble. It's really fun and great, but it's also challenging and expensive and grueling. It's been 2.5 years of work for me personally and quite a few other people, hundreds of people in production, dozens of people in our post world and in our on the producing side and the network and studio. It's a lot of folks who that make this kind of thing.
You can tell from like I said, you're doing a great job, and also the production design, the costume design. Everyone in every department seems to be doing their job and doing it.
And the other thing you have to accept is if you leave the show wanting more, then to me that means we did our job. Do you know what I mean? Because we like to deliver more, and you're not going to be able to please everybody. That said, we love Ortegas, and she absolutely deserves more time. But I would say that about all of our actors.
Awesome. So, in the season finale, Balance of Terror, I think, is one of the most beloved Trek episodes.
Negative. Phaser's gone. Weapons crew's at me.
Make challenge. Warn that ship off.
Trying to, sir. They don't acknowledge.
I believe I can lock on it. Get a picture of their bridge.
Put it on the screen. Repeat it.
I was suggesting that Mr. Spock could probably translate it for you, sir.
I assume you're complimenting Mr. Spock on his ability to decode.
I'm not sure, sir.
Well, here's one thing you can be sure of, mister. Leave any bigotry in your quarters. There's no room for it on the bridge. Do I make myself clear?
You do, sir.
You and I are of a kind. In a different reality. I could have called you friend.
What purpose will it serve to die?
We are creatures of duty, Captain. I have lived my life by it. Just one more duty to perform.
Even amongst Trek fans,
It's a great episode of television.
Yeah, I think people love it, even people who don't necessarily count TOS as their favorite show. So were there any fears about recreating the conditions of that episode in the season finale's what if scenario?
A little bit, but no more than in redoing any of this stuff. You can't act like you're afraid to break it when someone hands you something like Star Trek, because if you do, you're not going to do the best job that you possibly can. You're not going to try challenging things. You're not going to push the boundaries of it. I love that episode, and I hope that love came through. Akiva and I love Star Trek and didn't want to ruin it. We wanted to celebrate it. And so I thought the fun of this show, part of the fun of this show is saying, okay, imagine if we went back and retold a legacy Star Trek story, but with our people and our sets and our special effects. Like that was part of the fun of the idea. And then we melded that with a time travel story, what I like to call the Ghost of Pike Missed Future, about that sort of classic sci-fi trope of your future self comes back and says, don't do this thing because it'll make everything bad. And then the last piece that we really want to get into when we were banning about the idea was in the menagerie, Spock goes to an unbelievable lengths to try to do something for Captain Pike.
Right.
Who takes these?
Repeat, Enterprise to Starbase. Orders received. We need operating confirmation from the ship's captain. Come in, Starbase. Come in, Captain Kirk.
This is Captain Kirk. You have confirmation, Ms. Uhura. Mr. Spock is with me here. He'll answer all questions. Kirk out.
You would not make a false entry.
There's a false entry in the log right now which doesn't jibe with the established facts. How do you explain that?
I can't, but to question Spock of all people. Me, yes. I could run off half-cocked given a good reason. So could you. But not Spock. That's impossible.
This is First Officer Spock. Per Starfleet orders, this date, I've been placed in temporary command of the Enterprise. While our destination is secret, our mission is relatively simple. Starbase Command has assigned Captain Kirk medical rest leave until our return. His instructions are that you will obey my orders as you would his. First Officer out.
And we wanted to tell a little bit of the story of how their relationship came to be. There's a scene, it's one of my favorite scenes in the episode, where Spock talks to Pike and says, I get a sense that I owe you a debt of gratitude, but for what I don't know. And Pike says, "You mean a great deal to me, Mr. Spock." And it's this emotional but not emotional, where they don't say what they're really feeling. It's a very Vulcan scene.
Yeah, that was a great scene in the episode. And the episode, I think, in general, is a great success. I liked it quite a bit.
I'm glad you liked it.
Part of the reason I asked is there are a lot of fanboys on the internet, and they can be very vocal about things not coming out the way that they imagine. So I'm glad you weren't chasing by that.
Well, if I was worried about that, I wouldn't be working on this show, I guess. But look, you can't please everyone. I love Star Trek. Akiva loves Star Trek. All of our writers love Star Trek. All the people who work in our production love Star Trek. And we're trying to make a show that we like. So hopefully it feels to me like that's resonating with fans, which is gratifying. So
awesome.
Yeah. But also I would say people are entitled to their opinions.
This is true.
One of the things I love about Trek is not every episode is going to be for everybody, but that's why it's so fun to try all the different flavors. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Awesome. So about this episode, I think Matthew, I think his name is McFadden, does a great job as the Romulan commander. However, yeah, he's great. The original actor who played this part was Mark Lenard in Balance and Terror. So
No, he's shrewd, this starship commander. He tries to make us waste energy.
I prefer another guide, Captain.
As you wish, Ambassador. Mr. Spock, care to beam down and visit your parents?
Captain, Ambassador Sarek and his wife are my parents.
So was there any discussion about having James Frain come and play this role, since he was the last person to play Sarek?
You're truly leaving us, Michael. It is the secret wish of every parent that our children make right the mistakes we ourselves have made. I know I have not always been the ideal father. For my failures, I humbly ask both of you for forgiveness.
Yeah, it's funny. We talked about that, but it felt a little like too cute an idea, and we're not having, we didn't have Jess Bush playing the computer or number one, so or vice versa with Rebecca Romaine playing. So we thought they did things differently then, because also I'm forgetting the actor's name. The actor who plays Stan is also one of the Romulans.
Yeah. But
it's funny that actor came in doing like an unbelievably perfect Mark Lenard impersonation.
Really? Okay. Wow.
And to the point where I was like, Chris Fisher, the director, and I were discussing it, and we want you to be you. Like, we're not trying to copy them. We're trying to do our version of them. Right. And he found what I thought was like a kind of perfect balance of this felt like that, but it was its own thing.
I regret that we meet in this way. You and I are of a kind. In a different reality, I could have called you friend.
What purpose will it serve to die?
We are creatures of duty, you and I. Just one more duty to perform. Do not be upset. I have accepted my fate.
It was also really, I love how in TOS they would cut to the other bridge. And it's not something that we got a chance to do as much on our show. And I really, really enjoyed learning about the Romulans. It'll be a rare treat for us to do a Romulan story because of Balance of Terror.
Right.
So, we're sort of hemmed in a little bit by canon there. A lot of people aren't supposed to know what Romulans look like until we figure out some clever way around that. And
I guess Pike knows now, but he's the only one who knows.
Pike does know, yes, exactly. Yeah. But it was super. That was part of the fun of this was imagining this culture.
Yeah. So I would really like Hammer to come back, but assuming his death is final and you don't reverse it with the standard Star Trek technobabble, because main cast die all the time in Trek, are we going to get Scotty, or are we going to get a different chief engineer next season? Because we didn't hear him in the last episode.
Try it now.
Aye, that's the one. This is where the auto repair was getting hung up. She's pretty fused.
I do not need to remind you that we have less than 2 hours to restore phaser control to working order.
I'm an engineer, not a miracle worker, Mr. Spock.
We do hear Scotty doesn't come in right away, so we meet a new chief engineer who's a very different character.
I see.
Complete left turn, totally different, in many, many, many ways.
Okay, interesting, awesome. So I'm a father, and I really appreciated the bittersweet ending of Elysian Kingdom.
Okay.
Hello, Daddy. I'm happy. I'm safe.
You did the right thing. Someday we'll see each other again. I know we will. But you have to live your own life now.
I promise.
And I also appreciated in the next episode that Dr. Gunbeg was still struggling with the loss of his daughter. There's just a little beat in that episode because it wasn't really focused on him.
Yeah.
But he would still be dealing with the loss of not being able to raise his daughter. So I really appreciated that.
Very much so, yeah.
The soprano sings in E minor, and we associate a feeling. But it's not really about the melody. Our own reflections make it emotional.
I'm not being emotional.
I was talking about me. I call the girl my daughter.
Yeah. Are there plans to continue exploring his grief and that loss, or is he going to go back to the Nebula? Is that why he loses the CMO job to McCoy? Because I noticed in the last episode,
sorry, on the last you were saying.
I was noticing in the last episode he is still the CMO, but in Balance and Terror it's McCoy. So I'm trying to kind of piece things together about how he lost his job. Whether
we're a long way from TOS, so there's there are a lot more stories to tell about.
Right.
We tell a whole arc with him and his daughter in the first season. Mm-hmm. We tell a really different story in the second season that I don't want to say too much about it, but I'm really excited. It's a totally different facet of his personality. We kind of go into some stuff about his history. We learn a lot more about him than we did in season one. And that's a real challenging, interesting role for Babs, who's a wonderful actor and frankly a delight to hang out with. So I think when you see next year, you'll really get a feel for how totally different it is. But our goal was not in season 2 to repeat the same emotional stories, but to tell big, broad, new emotional stories, to deepen the characters. And if they went this way, we're going to try to see them go this way. We really want to show different sides of them as much as possible.
Yeah. Babs actually mentioned in the Ready Room that the storyline might include Klingons and sort of his rage there. So
there may or may not be Klingons.
Yeah. So after our Klingons, this will be the first that we've seen of the Klingons since season 2 of Discovery.
The D7 will arrive momentarily, Captain. Please transmit tactical analysis of all enemy vessels to us.
Stand by for transfer.
Yodak Yabach, Hort Yakal. Herr Lumech, Hak, Judgment! Herr Lumech, Hak, Judgment!
So I was wondering if the production might bend to some of the loud voices on the internet, or are you guys going to stay the course and not backtrack on the evolution of the Klingon look if they show up?
Our Klingons will look a little different from Discovery, but not out of no. Like a lot of it was it was a production based, but I think we should, as much as I want to talk about that, I don't want to reveal too much about any of the Klingon stuff next year. I will just say that it's an area that we go into. I'm excited for people to see it, and everything Babs says is true. And that to me, the thing that is more, look, everyone will find something different and exciting, but like I get excited about how these different sci-fi elements that we bring in reveal our characters. And for me, it was like about the stories that we tell with Mbenga, who is one of my favorites.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the Spock, Chapel, and T'Pring triangles.
In light of this new information, Spock, it is only logical that we terminate our mating bond.
I never actually believed you could have feelings for Nurse Chapel.
Of course not.
I assumed it was part of some greater plan. And I was right.
You're an honest man. You're not the guy who would chase after another woman while you have a girlfriend. So, I know. For certain. There's no feelings between us.
I'm glad to hear that. You know me well.
You're a good friend, Mr. Spock.
As are you, Nurse Chapel.
So was the intention behind that to give T'Pring and also Chapel more, make them more three-dimensional characters? Try to explain why T'Pring drifted? Yeah. Because in the original show, as you know, those characters were a little flat. T'Pring was just cold and calculating, and Chapel was always crazily pining after Spock.
Oh.
Oh, Vulcan plummeek soup. And I'll bet you made it, too. You never give up hoping, do you?
Well, Mr. Spock hasn't been eating, Doctor, and I just happened to notice.
It's all right. Carry on, Miss Chapel. Frying, if I want anything from you, I'll ask for it.
If your captain were Victor, he would not want me, and so I would have Stunn. If you were Victor, you would free me because I had dared to challenge, and again I would have Stunn. But if you did not free me, it would be the same, for you would be gone, and I would have your name and your property, and Stunn would still be there.
Logical. Flawlessly logical.
I am honored.
And now it seems like her feelings, I was speaking to a colleague about this a couple of days ago, and it seems like she's being gaslit a little bit, even though Spock doesn't mean to do that, because he's trying to figure out his own feelings. So
absolutely our intent. We think that modern audiences would have a instinctive organ transplant rejection if we tried to write those characters in the way that they wrote them in the 1960s, because we're not in the 1960s, we're in the 2020s. And so I think our female characters deserve better stories. And also I think that for me, there's just so much more interesting stuff to tell there about all three of them. So I guess does that answer your question?
Yeah. Looking forward to seeing more from Gia and Jess Bush. They've both been really great this season. So looking forward to seeing how that develops.
Our show is a prequel, and it's also us trying to modernize the show because we're trying to do contemporary effects. We're trying to do a version of that is respectful of the past.
Right.
But I see no reason why we would have to be just to be consistent with canon, why we can't allow a character like Chapel to be a real character. So to me, that's it all falls under the modernized. You know what I mean? We're trying to make a show for a contemporary audience.
Yeah. So in the penultimate episode, speaking of Spock, he loses control. Is that going to lead him toward the influence of his brother Sybok? Because earlier in the season, we see Sybok. We get a hint to the back of his head.
Someone I was told to avoid at all costs. My half-brother, Sybok.
I'm not going to reveal any plot stuff. Except I will say that we're not going to suddenly turn it into a heavily serialized show. We do serialized character stories. But each individual episode is still going to feel like its own movie. Will tell us the individual story. But look, that will tie into Spock's arc. So we'll say that.
Okay, fair enough. So given the season finale, I guess the audience is to assume that Pike has accepted his fate. So now is his energy is going to be turned toward advocating for Una?
Captain, don't. I've known this might happen for years.
I didn't ask for this job. I really am sorry.
So am I. Because this isn't over.
Also, given that Dr. Bashir still fears losing his commission in Starfleet in the 24th century.
DNA resequencing for any reason other than repairing serious birth defects is illegal. Any genetically enhanced human being is barred from serving in Starfleet or practicing medicine. Once the truth comes out, I'll be cashiered from the service. It's that simple.
Will we ever see Una as a Starfleet officer again? Because this isn't a thing that's going to be resolved. They're going to, because like you said, you're hemmed in by canon from the episodes from Deep Space Nine.
If you've watched that Bashir episode, there's other stuff in there they say that's relevant.
I don't think there's been a case dealing with any of this in 100 years.
And I would also say that there's some big season 2 stuff where we deal with this. I'm really excited for you to see it, and I don't want to spoil it because I think it's really fun and dramatic, and it's some of my favorite stuff that we've done on the show. I'm very proud of it. And I think Rebecca does some stellar work, and I can't wait to share that one.
Lieutenant Commander Una Chin Riley has been formally charged with violating Starfleet Regulation 614617, prohibiting permanent DNA modification as well as submitting false information to Starfleet and 2 counts of sedition.
How do you plead, Commander?
Not guilty.
Look, and part of the goal as a writer is to paint yourself into a corner and then not know how you're going to get out of it. And because if we don't know how we're going to get out of it, you won't know how we're going to get out of it. And that was a little bit of what we were trying to do with the last season.
Okay, fair enough. So I think not the penultimate episode, the episode where Hammer dies. The penultimate episode.
That is the horror. That's 109.
Yeah, 109. It seems at the end that it's a little unclear whether or not Uhura is going to stay, but. But she shows up in the next episode. Is she staying on the ship, or is she going to go graduate and then come back? Or
she's staying on the ship.
Okay.
I feel like I would be remiss in suggesting that we're saying that she is in that episode. She questions her path, and something about what she learns from Hammer makes her realize that she's found her place.
Okay. Fair enough.
And then we will see her grow more into that in season 2.
Okay. So Trek shows tend to focus on the British crew. However, I did develop Chief O'Brien in TNG and DS9. Are you going to develop Chief Kyle? Because we've got a couple hints to his personality. He's apparently mean to the ensigns. The ensigns believe that he's mean.
So. Chief Kyle.
No, not Chief Kyle.
He's so mean.
We'll have you micro-cleaning the transporter pads.
Dismissed.
So are we going to develop Chief Kyle, Lenny?
We will actually see a bunch of crew chiefs next year. So the less I say about this, the better.
Fair enough. So, La'Han, we see her leave in the penultimate episode as well.
I'd like to request a formal leave of absence. Decommission me if you have to, but I need the freedom to go where the clues take me.
I assume that there'll be we see her in the final episode, but that's a time jump. But we'll see more of her and also more of the Gorn in the future.
Will we see more of La'an and will we see more of the Gorn? Is that the question?
Yeah, the Gorn, yeah.
We will see more of La'an and we will see more of the Gorn.
Okay.
I feel it's safe to say that they're kind of intertwined in our show in some ways.
Okay.
Given her backstory.
So the episode the Gorn show up in, I guess it is a little ambiguous whether or not Starfleet has encountered them before. So.
They wanted us to fire. They sacrificed an entire ship just to get our location.
Why is that blip so much bigger?
So are we going to see them in ships, or are we going to see them as adults? Because we do see them as hatchlings in the penultimate episode.
We need to make a run for it.
Again, I don't want to reveal anything, but I will say that we've been working our way up to adults eventually.
Fair enough. All right, so I don't want to take any more of your time. I really appreciate it. Maybe when you're not in the middle of production, we can have a longer conversation, but I'd
be happy to do that. Happy to do
All right. Thank you so much for your time. And good luck with finishing up the last couple episodes.
Thank you so much. It's great talking to you.
You too. All right, so I hope you enjoyed that interview. As I said, we have the first 6 episodes of season 2 of Strange New Worlds. I've watched them over the weekend. We can't review it until the 12th, so you will see our spoiler-free review of the first 6 episodes on the 12th. And then subsequently on every Thursday, we will do a breakdown and our review of those episodes going forward. All right, so subscribe so you don't miss that, and we'll see you then. All right, thanks. Bye, guys.